Bobby Fischer always said, "I don't believe in the psychology of players. I believe in good moves." According to Bobby Fischer, if we always focus on finding the best move in the position, we're sure to have a good game and a good result. Let's take a look at this example he played in 1970 in Palma de Mallorca, and we're going to learn a lot. He played against Addison with the black pieces, who used the Scandinavian defense. They say that when he reached this position in the game, he smiled rather abruptly at his opponent, since he considered that the Scandinavian defense at that level was quite inferior to the others. Why? Because in this case, by capturing the pawn, as you can see here in his second move, he's already looking, as always, for the best move. In this case, capturing the opponent's pawn. Why? Because this way, he draws the opponent's queen toward the center of the board, where it can be easily attacked. Let's apply it again. What would be the best move in this case? Develop a minor piece. Almost always, we can develop a minor piece while attacking a queen that has to move away. In this case, in this Scandinavian defense, the queen can go to several places. It can go to A or to D, which is what happened in the game. In this case, if we look again for the best move, we'll find that D is definitely one of the candidates. There isn't always just one good move. There are many, but D is definitely a good solid move. Whenever we can place one of the two central pawns on any of the four central squares of the board, it'll always be a good move. Why did Bobby Fischer smile when his opponent played the Scandinavian defense? Well, as I said, at that level, it's generally not considered very good because it loses a lot of tempo. However, at the intermediate level, it works really well. Let's continue with the game. The opponent made a move, and once again, we need to look for a good move. There are actually many options here. For example, knight to F, or the one Fischer used, bishop to C. All he's doing is developing one of his minor pieces and placing it in a good spot. All he's doing is focusing on what's truly important and not making moves that don't accomplish anything. The game continued with bishop to F. Let me tell you that there's actually a slightly stronger move here that's considered nowadays, which is this bishop to G, and I'll explain why. Here, the player with the black pieces would take advantage of the fact that this bishop is well defended by the knight, so now this bishop can't be captured by the queen, and therefore it's threatening our queen. What should we do? A move like Fischer. It's true that it blocks the thread and also creates a threat for our opponent, but they would simply move the bishop back. And as you can see, this pawn is really annoying here. It doesn't let the knight develop, it doesn't let the queen develop properly, which is why this move usually isn't good. So what should we do? If they come in with the bishop here, we could, for example, play knight to F, or those would be good moves. However, here, after a move like E, black would be perfectly fine. They can develop this bishop, which is already well placed. The other bishop can also come out. They can castle, and black enjoys a good position. That's why here, after black's move, which isn't a bad move, we can see that there was already a better move, which was bishop to G. At the very least, it would have put us in more trouble because it would have forced us to defend the queen very carefully. Since there's no threat here, Bobby Fischer thought the normal thing would be to develop my knight. Would that be a good move? Yes, a very good one. Is there a better one? Yes, and he found. And you know what it is? A double attack. Whenever we can make a double attack, we should try to do it, because the double attack is one of the most important forces in chess. If we manage to pull off a good double attack, we'll be able to control the position well. For example, here we have this one available, attacking the bishop and also attacking this b-pawn, which in turn would attack his rook. The double attack, as I said, is one of the strongest tactics in chess. In fact, it's one of the tactics I explain in my new book, The Secrets of Real Progress. You already know that we explain quite a few tactics. For example, you can see here that the double attack is well explained. Here it is in the new book. At the end of the video, I'll tell you more about this book. I don't want to bother you with it right now. So, as you can see, with queen to F, a pawn is being sacrificed. Bishop takes C. Is it worth sacrificing this pawn? Alright, in this case, you should know that taking this pawn would be a pretty serious mistake. I'll show you why. If bishop takes c, it's true, they've captured a pawn, but we would capture another one, and this one seems way too powerful. The rook is being threatened, so the only move should be knight to d, so the queen can defend the rook. There's no other way to defend the rook, do you see it? And then here, we could continue in many ways, but for example, bishop to f, threatening this pawn with both the queen and the bishop, should be followed by, say, rook to b. We would capture the A pawn, and no matter what they do here, we could go on to threaten the queen with both bishops and win the queen. And this would be a complete blunder for the black pieces. If you want, you can visualize it yourselves on the board, and you'll see that after this queen to f, capturing the C pawn would be a bad move. So what should black do here? Logically, defend the bishop and defend the pawn. There are only two ways to defend both pieces at the same time. One would be moving the bishop back to its original square, which doesn't seem like the best move, right? Bringing the bishop to f, then moving it back on the next move. And the other option, which black used, defends the bishop and also this pawn. Now, if the queen is overloaded, he also explained overloading well in the book. Perfect. So here, once again, we need to keep looking for the best move, right? How should we continue? Well, now we should develop, for example, this knight and this bishop. If we follow the rule of developing the minor pieces first, we'll be on the right track. It's true that we made a small exception with this queen because we had a double attack available, but now we're going to keep developing these two, and really, whichever two we develop would be a good idea. But wait, Chesterton, if we develop these two pieces, can they capture this pawn now? Yes, because we no longer have it defended. Well, that's exactly what happened. Bobby Fischer played by sacrificing this pawn, which the player with the black pieces now captures, and it's actually great that they do, because this lets us explain why capturing that pawn isn't a good idea. Sometimes we need to understand that in chess, who wins at chess? Whoever checkmates, right? And a lot of times, being down a pawn doesn't mean you have less power to checkmate. On the contrary, it means your opponent is falling way behind and their pieces aren't working well. For example, here, the game continues by threatening this bishop, which has to move back. And now it's true that we can develop the last minor piece we have left, and let's take a moment to evaluate the position. What difference do you see? I see a huge difference. Both bishops are perfectly developed, while the opponent only has one, and it's a bit trapped. Both knights are developed, while the opponent only has one. We're going to castle on the next move, while our opponent still needs three moves, for example, e and castling. And on top of that, we have a rook placed on an open file that's already directly attacking the opponent as soon as we move these two pieces, while the opponent's rooks are extremely far from getting into the game. All of this that I just mentioned is simply in exchange for a pawn. You understand the difference? You'll probably have to watch this game several times. That's fine. You can watch it as many times as you need. Let's see if you leave a big like and we can break the record for likes because these videos are extremely useful. The game continues with knight from B to D, and now once again we need to think about the best move. It seems obvious, right? Castle, develop your minor pieces, control the center, and castle. Those are the three principles for playing a good game. The opponent does the same, plays E, blocking our light squared bishop, and also freeing up his dark squared bishop, the last minor piece he needs to castle and develop. The game continues with a very interesting move. There are probably a lot of good moves here. I can think of a really good move because this is where a lot of people get lost. They've developed their minor pieces, controlled the center, and castled, so now what? And they don't know what to do next. The idea is that now it's time to improve our pieces. For example, you improve a piece that wasn't well placed and put it in a much better position, threatening the bishop and also threatening this point with two pieces, which, together with a rook, could greatly improve our position. Bobby Fischer here went for a secondary plan. Of course, we don't always have to agree with other players' plans, but it's interesting to see why he does it. He used the move sacrificing a pair of bishops, which is extremely interesting, and I'm going to explain why. How would you capture this bishop, With the g-pawn or with the knight? Probably all of you thought with the knight, right? However, what would happen if you captured with the knight? I'm going to show you, because in the game it was captured with the pawn. The idea here is that white could advance their central pawn and open up the position, taking advantage of it. This is important, and you can apply it in all your games. Open up the position, taking advantage of the fact that the opponent's king is still in the center. When your king is castled and your opponent's isn't, you should open up the center to be able to attack their king. And now, how would all this continue? For example, pawn takes pawn, knight takes, then an exchange of knight and bishop, pieces are traded. Here in the center, there's a threat of bishop takes on b, threatening the queen and the rook. So, for example, c. And now, for example, this bishop isn't threatened because if black captures this bishop, we would capture the queen. Therefore, we could continue with a move like that and we would be completely winning. The opponent wouldn't have time to defend everything. They can't defend the rook's entry because we would capture the bishop and give this check, which would probably end up being checkmate. So here, they pretty much can't do anything at all. If they try to bring in the queen, we could also bring in the rook. And I encourage you to study this position carefully because it's completely winning for white. So I'm going to go back. You'll understand perfectly that here, after capturing the pawn, let me put this here, just like it was. I'm going to set it up like this. Yes, I think I did it right. And this knight is here. Exactly. The idea is that here, it was captured with... I'm missing this pawn. It was captured with the pawn. You saw why capturing with the knight was dangerous, right? You can watch it as many times as you need. The idea is that here, Bobby Fischer applied the same principle. You shouldn't make things too complicated for yourself. Apply the principles you already know. The opponent's king is in the center, and ours isn't. What should we do? Open up the center. With which move can we try to open the center? With this one. Logically, the player with the black pieces doesn't want to open the center, so they close it with E. You see the logic? Very good. So what should we do now? Once again, I've run out of ideas. Well, let's improve our pieces, as always. Which piece can I improve? Well, a lot of them. For example, this knight is being blocked by an umbrella. The umbrella means it can't jump forward because there's a pawn blocking it. So, for example, we could play knight to g to improve our knight, or, for instance, what Bobby Fischer does, this bishop is blocked by the pawn, so I improve it over here and pin the knight in such a way that now you can't play this move here because I would capture your pawn. Pawn takes, bishop takes, and I would be in a really good position. So what exactly did he do? He improved the piece. The game continues with, again, what do we do when we don't know what to do? Let's improve our pieces. I'm going to improve this knight, which now targets this advanced post on FA. Our bishop is under threat, and now we have to think about where we want to retreat it. For example, there are many possible moves. Here, Bobby Fischer decided to face off these two bishops. Would it be a good idea now for black to capture this bishop? Well, no, because if they capture this bishop, this king will never be safe in the center. The king is never really safe, right? Because we could attack him easily. And if he castles, it would be even worse. Therefore, this bishop is serving as a defender of the castling position. So pay attention to Bobby Fischer's thinking. I'm going to threaten this bishop that's doing a great job defending his position. Here, black doesn't capture the bishop, but instead moves their queen back to its original position since it wasn't doing anything where it was. All right, so now what? Well, Bobby Fischer says, I have all my pieces. Great. I could place the rook on E or D. That would be a good move. But you know what? I'm going to go on the attack. Since this defender's really bothering me, I'm going to play, and if he gets distracted, I'm going to play and force this bishop to trade. So after the move, black realizes it and plays. If he notices, nothing happens. But if he doesn't, then we threaten the bishop, and now he keeps improving his pieces. This bishop is just fantastic. Can you capture here? Well, it wouldn't be a good idea, because not only would we get rid of this bishop, but we'd also improve our knight. The idea is that black keeps improving their pieces, and we do the same. Look at what black does here. He attacks the d-pawn with two pieces, with the knight and the queen. Do you know what Fischer does? Exactly the same thing he did with the c-pawn. What matters to me isn't a pawn. What matters is beating you in a game. In this case, I'm going to improve my pieces a lot. He moves the knight from C to E, and if you want to take the pawn, you can go ahead and take it. In fact, that's what happened in the game. However, now the opponent's pieces are extremely well placed. Sorry, I mean Fischer's pieces. How do we improve the position? This rook that wasn't doing anything, I move it to the center, pin the knight because the queen is behind it, force the opponent to play C to defend this knight, and now I keep putting on the pressure with this move. I put pressure on this knight, which I'm now threatening with 1, 2, and 3 pieces. You're not going to be able to defend it. So here, the player with the black pieces thinks, well, since I can't defend it, I'll improve my queen and threaten this B point. A good idea would be to do what Fischer did. Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, and queen takes pawn. And it would be a very good position, recovering the pawn. However, here Bobby Fischer comes up with a much better move. Feel free to pause the video right now to see if you can find a good move that Bobby Fischer used here to finish off this beautiful victory. I'm going to say it right now. The move was the following. A quality sacrifice, rook takes on D, sacrificing a rook in exchange for a knight. Why? Let me explain. Because now, logically, black is forced to capture. This is a forced move. Otherwise, they would have lost the knight. And when they capture the knight, this knight comes into the center with a lot of force, attacking the queen, attacking the bishop, and also, when the queen moves, attacking this C square with check. And I'm going to take the rook. So it was a temporary sacrifice. Do you get it? Here, the player with the black pieces captured this pawn. It's not a good idea, but going back with the queen wouldn't have helped much either, because the game would have continued like this. Knight to C with check. If the king moves away, we would win the queen with check, and I take the queen. And if the king tries to come over here, well, exactly. Sorry, here's the bishop. So we can see that the king really can't do anything at all. Either he moves over here or gives up the queen. So in this case, going back wouldn't have helped him at all, and at least he managed to capture this pawn. And how did the game end for Bobby Fischer? Because it was spectacular, attacking the queen. The queen really doesn't have anything better to do. There's nothing better than capturing this pawn. And now, after the move rook takes on B, bringing the rook into the 7th rank, the player with the black pieces decided to push forward, and I'll explain why. This bishop is under threat. Rook takes bishop, check, practically winning the game immediately. The idea is that this bishop can't move away either, because if it does, the game could simply continue with bishop takes on G, pawn takes on G, and now knight takes on F, check. If the king moves, we would give a discovered check, so they're forced to capture. And now, instead of capturing the bishop directly, it's even better to play this move here, check, forcing the king to come either here or here. In both cases, we capture with check, and now, whether the king goes to the E file or the G file, we would end up delivering checkmate on the next move. That's why the player with the black pieces resigned. So, for those of you who stayed until the end of the video, just so you know, this book, my new book, is now available. This copy of the book says resale is prohibited because it's my edition, but yours won't say that. And you can get it either in physical format, to have it delivered to your home, or in digital format. I've set the digital version at half price so that anyone who can't afford the physical copy can still get it in digital format, and you can read it just the same. It's the exact same book on your computer if you're not sure what it's about. This book has 3 parts. In the first part, I show you the difference between those players who manage to improve at chess and those who don't, so you can understand the difference and make progress yourself. In the second part, I explain tactics to you, okay? Here you go. Walk. Part 2, the hidden vision of chess. Master the tactics of seeing what others don't see. The book is available in Spanish and in chess. In Spanish and in English. Both languages are available. And in the last part, you have a massive training section with the real game situations, along with the solutions at the end, so you can practice perfectly. So this book came out 2 days ago, and it's already a complete success. Y'all are loving it. If you want it, you can find it down below in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a big like, and I'll see you tomorrow in the next one, friends. Goodbye.